guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome if you're new to my channel. My name is Itolia, and if you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you guys are notified every time I post a video. As you guys can tell by today's title, I'm about to be spilling my tea. And like, in my life, I have made a lot of dumb decisions, a lot of young, crazy in love decisions. But I think this might have been the craziest one and honestly the most defining one in my entire life. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I also just wanted to start off this video by saying, like, I really was not ever going to tell this story probably ever in my life, like, because it was pretty traumatizing and a little embarrassing, especially because I'm known as the girl who's like, forget these, men, and just focus on yourself and whatever. Like, I've literally been that girl, been preaching that girl my whole life. And one thing I will say too, side note, is I feel like I can still be that. Like, I'm still that girl because I stand on business. A lot of people like to preach those things and don't stand on any lick of business when it comes to it. So I feel like in my case, I made a little, decision or whatever that wasn't the best decision, but I stood on business at the end of the day. So, and I also want to tell these stories because I know that there's a lot of women watching me. I don't know, that's kind of my target audience. Like, I really want to help women and guide women in the right direction when it comes to being their best selves and putting their best foot forward and just loving themselves 100% authentically. And so I feel like, me telling this story will help somebody, even if, they've already been through something similar, or if they're kind of like in a situation where they're on the fence about like what they want to do. My story, hopefully, sorry you guys, my story hopefully will help somebody. So that is why I do what I do. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna get into it. We're gonna start with my brows. I don't know, also side notes, I don't know if you guys have this issue. Let me know if I'm the only one that's having this issue, because it's really starting to get a little frustrating. Anytime, because I really transitioned into using brow pencils instead of a brow pomade, because like literally growing up, like I always used a brow pomade, and it's cool or whatever, like nothing wrong with it, like nothing against it at all, but I love how the pencil just makes my eyebrows look so natural and fluffy, and like they run out so freaking fast. So I don't know if I'm like the only person that has that issue. If anybody else has that issue, please let me know, because it will make me feel a lot better about having to get a new eyebrow pencil every 2 to 3 business days, it seems like, because they are always running out. But anyways, so ran out. Moral of the story, I ran out of my eyebrow pencil, so I have to use a pomade today to do my brows, so they might look a little thicker than normal. And you guys know I have to focus on this brow part, so I'm gonna do my brows real quick and then we'll get back into the story time. So now that my brows are done, let's get into the topic of this video, which is I moved across the man. Ugh, I can't even talk. It's so freaking embarrassing to say. It makes me want to throw up. I moved across the country for a man. And honestly, I have been contemplating even how I want to start this story, because like there is a deep dive that we need to do to really like break down what even happened for this to happen for me. Because literally when I did make the decision, everybody was like, okay, like I would be the last person that anyone in a million years would even guess of doing something like this. So you guys know I had to have good reason to want to do something like this, right? So I don't know. I don't even know where to start. Okay, let's bring it back to the beginning. So I graduated college in 2021. I graduated from Howard University. This is like really fresh post-COVID. And also, side note, you guys, every product that I'm going to use in this video on my face, I'm going to link it in the description box. I'm obviously not going to be talking too much into what I'm doing to my face. If you guys want an in-depth tutorial of what I do normally for my full coverage routine, go ahead and watch the two past videos I posted an updated foundation routine for you guys, more in depth, talking about what I did and the process that I did for my makeup. So today I'm just going to be kind of talking to you guys because it's hard for me to do both, but all the products will be linked in the description box down below if I'm using any extra products that I didn't use in that last video. So I graduated college in 2021, and this is like really fresh post-COVID, so the job market was real hard to get into already to begin with. And I remember stressing, like I had, I think, 1 more month left on my lease in DC, and I had like remember begging my parents, like, okay, can you guys just let me stay at my apartment for 1 more month? Like, I swear I'm gonna try to figure something out. At this time, I was freelancing at BT, and I was working on DMX's funeral, so I was like either hoping that BET would hire me on as like a production assistant role or something, or like an assistant position that they were working on, or I was hoping that, you know, like the grace of God, something would work out and I would get something before I had to end up moving back to Seattle, because Lord knows I did not want to move back home with my parents. I had been living by myself for 5 years at this point in my own space, and I loved the East Coast and I never wanted to go back to the West Coast, and I never wanted to move back in with my parents. Like, if you know, you know, like once you're on your own, you kind of just are like, I would never go back to that, like willingly. So that was like my major thing for me. It was like, okay, everything I can do to like not have to move back with my parents, like I'll do it. I don't care. I'll freaking pick up garbage. I will be a bottle girl. Like, I will do whatever I have to do to not have to go home. Like, that was like a death sentence to me. Like, I live in Seattle, Washington. Like, this is not the place to be if you're young and turn. Like, it's just not the place to live. So I was like, okay, my parents ended up allowing me to stay at the apartment I was in and extend my lease for 1 more month. So I literally kicked it into overdrive. Like, I was applying to jobs nonstop, literally just praying that something came up. And eventually I ended up connecting with a friend from college when I was doing her hair, and she was like, girl, you can come work at my job. We're actually hiring. They have a program that they do every year, and I can just send your resume over to my boss and like we can get something situated. I'm like, oh my God. So that job ended up being like the worst job I ever had in my whole entire life. It gave me some PTSD, but it allowed me to stay in DC for an extra 1.5 years. I think my contract was 15 months. So I was like, okay, this gives me 15 months, because it was a contract. So it was like, okay, this gives me 15 months to hopefully find something else that's a little more stable and long term. And then I can also just stay in DC. Like, I don't have to move back home. Like, it was literally the perfect scenario for me. And the company was a really big company. So like, it looks good on my resume, so they say. But apparently it looks good on my resume, and like my parents were really happy about it and everybody was happy. Cool. So I ended up moving into another apartment in Virginia when I got that job, and this apartment was so nice. This was before I had Coco. Like, this is like literally at the start of everything. So I moved into my apartment in Virginia. My parents had came up and helped me move, and I ended up also getting a car. Like, everything was working out in my favor. Very much lucky girl syndrome, okay? Like, everything was working out in a matter of 3 months. I remember I was so stressed before graduating. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to get anything. And in a matter of 3 months, I got everything I thought I wanted. Emphasis on thought I wanted, and more. So I ended up moving into the apartment, and I remember I posted on Twitter, that basically it was like one of those posts that was like, oh, car check, apartment check, job check, whatever. Like, after graduating, I had basically all my ducks in a row. So I posted it, and that post actually ended up going viral on Twitter, which I really did not expect, because it was such a random post for me that I literally was like just posting it just because I had posted it on Instagram too, and it was like regular. And also I was just really proud of myself for making something shake when I really did not think I was gonna make something shake. So I ended up posting it. It ended up going viral. Very left field for me. I did not expect that at all. And from that post, I guess, I got a lot of like eyes on me, a little bit of attention, whatever. And I remember going on Instagram one day and going through my DMs, and lo and behold, somebody popped up in my DMs that I was like, I don't usually answer DMs. And I think at this time too, I was like still getting over a situation I was in with someone else that was a little sad for me, because I had really cared about that person, and something had ended up basically like happening to where like, so I remember being like, I think this would be a really cute addition to the roster. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it would be a cute little addition to the roster. Like, I didn't think anything was really gonna come from it. Like, I was like thinking it was just gonna be a little whoop-de-woo situation, and fast forward, it ended up being my ex-boyfriend, who I ended up, the whole story is gonna tie into this. So yeah. And I remember at the beginning of our relationship, or our friendship, I would say, there was something kind of in my spirit that was like, I don't know, like it was something that was a little iffy, like there was something that made me not 100% sure, to where like I was kind of curving him for a while at the beginning. And I'm gonna literally get into this like at the end of the video. Like, I have so much advice to give from this experience that I have went through. Basically, there was a feeling in my body that I was not like, I couldn't really put my finger on what the feeling was, but it was also something that was like, I don't really think I want to talk to this guy, but like I'm gonna talk to him just because I feel like it would be a cute era, it would be fun, whatever. And also like the more we began to talk and get on FaceTime and stuff, like he was cool, like he was really cool. So I'm like, okay, this is cool, I guess, like I'm like, okay. So also, you guys, this is a very embarrassing story for me, so I'm really trying to like let it out my mouth. But basically, let's fast forward. So we end up, fostering a relationship over FaceTime over the course of like 8 months. And I remember it came to January, where it was going to be like my birthday is January 20th. And it was kind of like towards the beginning of January. And because of that, it was like off season for him. He played football. So that is also another layer to this story that we're going to get into. But it was off season for him. So we decided that would be a good time for us to like finally officially meet in person and have a little cute little date or whatever. So he ended up flying to DC and coming to stay with me at my apartment. So I remember when he came, it was like, I was like, ooh, like, I don't know. It was something that was like, I just was like, oh my God, I think I like this person. Like, it was very natural. The vibes were really cool. Like, he was really good looking. And, he had like taken me out all weekend. Like, it was really giving like wine and dine. Like, the compliments were nonstop. Like, the affection was there. Like, everything was like perfect to me. I'm like, oh my God, like, did I find my husband on accident? Like, what is this? So I remember he had like been asking me like, oh, what do you want for your birthday? And I'm like, oh, like, I mean, I just met the guy. Like, I'm not really expecting him to get me anything crazy for my birthday. Like, I literally just met him. So I remember just being like, oh, I really want some roses. Like, I would love, like, 100 roses or, like, 200 long stem roses. Like, I've always wanted a giant bouquet of roses. Like, I don't know. I am very simple. Like, I'm a very simple girl. You don't need to get me a Chanel bag. Like, nothing crazy like that. Like, I just want some roses. And he's like, I'm not spending that much money on something that's gonna like die. So I just remember kind of leaving the conversation alone, but he kept asking me like, what do I want for my birthday? What do I want for my birthday? I remember like my friend had okay, this is all gonna tie in, okay? This is all gonna tie in. Stick with me. We're cooking. So I remember my friend had called me one day when I was at work. And she was like, oh my God, because she had been asking her boyfriend to get her like a handbag for a really long time. And I remember us having the conversation about her telling me like, oh, she wanted her man to get her a designer handbag. So she called me and was like, girl, oh my God, like my man said he's gonna get me a handbag. Like, which one should I get? Like, oh my God, like I'm so freaking excited. Like, what kind of handbags do you like? And in my head, I'm like, oh, girl, like, I have a list. Like, I have a list of handbags that are so cute. I was showing her, like, Goyard. I was showing her these Balenciaga hourglass bags because I really liked the hourglass bags at the time with the top handle. And I remember her just asking me the questions. And she's like, okay, bet I'm going to let him know or whatever. So I didn't think anything of it. Mind you, I'm super hard to surprise. I'm very nosy, like my intuition is on 10, like I literally am very hard to surprise. And I remember her coming over for me to do her hair, and my man at the time was in my apartment, and I had to leave to go grab something or something like that. And when I came back, he had said like, oh, I think I clogged your toilet or something like that. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, did you use the plunger? And he's like, yeah, but like for some reason, I don't know, I think there's something wrong with it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, can you just go check on it? And I'm like, I don't know, is there gonna be stuff in the toilet? He's like, can you just check on it? And I was like, okay. So as soon as I open the door of the bathroom, it's a Neiman Marcus shopping bag. And my friend is like jumping and screaming, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? And I remember opening it, and he got me like my first designer handbag the first weekend I met him. Okay? At the time, obviously, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, what? Like, nobody's ever done this for me. Like, obviously, super duper excited, super like just shocked, honestly. Very much shocked. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm the type of girl that wasn't used to nothing, but like I wasn't used to that. Usually I was like the trick in the relationship, you know, like with all the guys I used to date, like I would get them designer things or really nice gifts that were like thoughtful and surprising and like just going out of my way, and then I would always get the short end of the stick with them. So I feel like with him, I was like, oh my God, like this man is going out of his way to like surprise me and just like, you know, give me good attention. Like, I don't know. I just felt really like, wow, like very shocked, very like, okay, I don't know, this might be my man. So I remember after he left, he had been asking me like, oh, could you see yourself living with me? And this was like literally, y'all, I'm not lying, this was in like the first week or two of us talking. Like, I'm literally not lying to you. I mean, obviously we had been on FaceTime for like months and months and stuff before that, but like after meeting in person, like this was like within the first like 2 weeks of like meeting in person. So he's like, could you see yourself living with me? And at the time, like I told you guys, I was still kind of getting over something with someone else. So I just remember being like, you know, I kind of just want to take things slow. I don't really want to rush too much. Like, I mean, I could possibly see it in the future, for sure. But like, I just want to see where like time takes us. Like, I don't want to rush anything. I just want to go with the flow and vibe, and that's very different for me because usually I'm very fast, very delulu, very like, oh my god, okay, you're my boyfriend. But I just remember I told you guys I kind of just felt like iffy. There was a feeling that I just was like not really sure about. So I just remember being like, I really want to like go slow. Like, I don't really want to rush the process, you know? And I remember for my birthday, he had like paid for me to, because I took myself out to dinner that year and he couldn't make it because of something. And he was like, okay, well, let me know. Like, he paid for my dinner. He used to send me money for groceries. He used to send flowers to my house, like unexpected. I remember being like, oh, I had such a bad day today at work. And I would go back to my apartment and there would be flowers, like roses. Like, oh my God, I felt like I was in a fairy tale, y'all. At the beginning, I felt like I was in a fairy tale for sure. And so I remember like after that, he had been flying out to come and see me like every weekend at that point. Like every weekend he was buying a flight, he was coming out to see me. And eventually he ended up asking me like, okay, well, you know, like during off season, how would you feel about me like staying with you? Like, he was already helping out a lot at this point anyway. So I'm like, okay, like why not? Like, why not? I wouldn't mind an extra body in the house, somebody I like. Obviously, I really liked him at this point. We had spent Valentine's Day together, and that was super cute as well. I soft launched him on my Instagram. This is literally all before we were even official, which is just insane to me. But I was soft launching him on my Instagram. Like, he had told me he loved me. Yeah, we were just in Delulu land, you know? Like, we was just in La La Land, okay? In our own space. And I remember at some point in time around that time, we had gotten into an argument, and I remember like seeing a side of him that I was like, I really cannot like put my finger on how to explain it, but there was just a very like cold side to him that I hadn't seen the whole time we were, you know, in our little Delulu land. There was like a whole side to him that I hadn't seen like when we were going through our whole like beginning-ish stages, and this was kind of like right after we had the conversation about him coming to stay with me. And I thought we were gonna break up at this point, and I just remember crying, and he just did not care. And I was just like, is this somebody I want to be with? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm crying and you do not care. But also, I had already like been, I wouldn't say groomed, but like I had all of these other really amazing experiences with him, and I'm like, okay, somebody who does all of this for someone wouldn't just be acting like this, you know, or whatever. So I excuse the behavior, okay? I am one person that will tell the truth. I am definitely one of the girls that will tell the truth. I have had my fair share of letting things slide, and majority of women out here in this world, I don't care how they may seem on social media, a lot of women do not stand on business, okay? A lot of women will preach up and down all day, even your friends, and this is why I try to stray away from asking friends for advice on certain things, because they will tell you to leave your man forever for like something small, right? He might do something like yell at you and like make you, oh, leave him. But when it comes to their man, if their man does something 20 times worse, whatever, like they will give them chance after chance after chance after chance. Like, and that's why whenever I see the videos online with women being like, oh, men are just like, how can you do this to women? Like these men out here don't care about women. They blah, 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 blah. Like, majority of the time, the people who are saying that are people who have allowed. Sorry, y'all, my card keeps getting full. I'm saying, so a lot of the people I see on Instagram or TikTok preaching like, oh, men don't respect women, men don't value women, like, how can you blah 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 blah, like, most of the time those are the women who have allowed them to do things over and over and over and over and over again, and now it's to a point where like the man doesn't respect you. And at that point it's like, girl, if you don't want him to keep doing this to you, then leave. Like, if you had better boundaries, if you left the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, like, you wouldn't even be having these experiences with men that you are having. And this is me coming from like I said, like an honest, vulnerable moment right now with y'all, where I have too also made that mistake and, you know, forgiven things and overlooked things that I knew didn't sit right with me. And that is why in the end it ended up being what it was. So I just remember being like, I don't know, like, is this somebody I want to be with who's gonna, you know, act like this in situations where we need to be open with each other and need to be in a good space in terms of communicating. So, and fast forward, so I ended up forgiving that, and we ended up working it out. We also ended up going to Mexico together, and that actually ended up being a really good trip. But shortly after that trip, it was another circumstance where he was like arguing with me out the blue again, and was just saying that, you know, he would just want some time with his homeboys. Mind you, like, he was living with me at this point, so I'm like, okay, if you want space, like, go. Like, I don't understand why you're still here. And it was just a lot, okay? So moral of the story, like, there was a lot of little red flags kind of leading up to the middle of our relationship. So we end up approaching like September around this time, the following year, and this is 2022, and he ended up getting cut from the team that he was playing for. And I remember him coming back to my apartment and being like, okay, well, now I might get traded somewhere else. And this is something that a lot of people don't talk about in the NFL, like, industry. And, like, I was a military brat, so I say this all the time. The NFL really, like, emulates military life to me, because it literally, unless you're, like, somebody who is really good and they give you, like, a 5-year contract or something like that, you're most likely going to be, like, a majority of people move around a lot. Like, almost every year they're getting switched to a different team. They're moving to a different state, like, every year. And I had no clue that that was a thing when I was first kind of, like, going into the situation. And also, I remember, like, when we first, like, became official, people would ask me all the time, like, are you nervous? Like, do you feel like he's gonna cheat on you? Like, you know, that industry, like, all of them cheat. Like, are you nervous? I'm like, I'm really not an insecure person. Like, and I felt like we had a good understanding in our, you know, dynamic, to where, like, you know, like, if you aren't feeling this anymore, like, you can let me know and it'll be what it is. Like, I personally never force anybody to be where they don't want to be, and I make that clear in every single situation I end up in. Like, you don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. Like, you don't, nobody is forcing you to be here. Like, I'm not gonna hold a gun to your head. Like, I'm, like, if you're worried about hurting my feelings, like, I'll be sad for a little bit, but I'll be okay. Like, I'm me, you know what I mean? Like, been that girl, will always be that girl. Like, it's nothing. It's nothing. What did I say? It's nothing. Like, you know, breakups hurt. Like, they're gonna hurt. Like, no matter what, they're going to hurt. And I would rather somebody be super honest with me and tell me, like, hey, this isn't working, than start doing crazy stuff. And now we can't even be cool. Like, now I can't even mess with you like that. Like, now we can't even be friends. So I remember people asking me all the time, like, oh, are you nervous about, you know, that happening? And I'm like, I mean, sorry y'all, I cannot get a break. My camera died, my storage is full. Like, I'm really trying my best here. But I just remember being like, I'm not really an insecure person like that. Like, if it were to happen, like, God forbid, but like I don't think that something like that would happen based off of the dynamic of the foundation that we built in XYZ, okay? Just being Delulu, like truly just being Delulu, because like I said, I told you guys before, there were already kind of some things that had me very like, question mark. But I really wanted a relationship, and, you know, he was a good candidate for the boyfriend position. So I literally was just like, you know, we're just going to see where the wind takes us. And if it blows us away, then it's just going to have to blow us away. And that's honestly, with any relationship, you're going to have to take a risk. Like, a relationship is a risk. And it's just something that you got to do. You got to either learn the lesson or you're going to be happy. It's going to be one or the other. Like, it's just a pill that you have to swallow if you want to have relationships with the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever you're into. So I remember him telling me like, you know, I might have to get moved to a different team, da-da-da-da-da. And around this time, my contract at my job was also ending. And remember, like I told you guys at the beginning of the video, my main objective at the end of the day was like not to ever have to come back to Seattle. Because like, if you know, you know. I really was like, oh, I do not want to have to go back to my parents' house. And I remember I had been applying to jobs like relentlessly, because I did also hate that job that I was already at currently. So I just remember I was already like relentlessly applying to jobs, like internally, externally, like reaching out to recruiters. And this is kind of towards the part of the decade that we're in where the job market has just become increasingly hard. It is still hard to this day. I can do a whole nother video on that with you guys about my struggles that I've been having recently and just in life in general since graduation, applying to jobs and trying to get back in this job market since my last one. And it has just been a job in itself having to try to do that. So I remember I had been already applying like relentlessly to different positions, reaching out to recruiters, like trying my hardest to find another job, and I could not find another job. And I just remember confiding in him and being like, I do not want to have to go back home. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, like whatever. And he just offered like, you know, why don't you come and, well, he ended up getting traded to the Cardinals in Arizona. So, which was all the way across the country. And I really did not want to leave the East Coast. Like, in my heart and soul, I'm like, I really don't want to leave the East Coast. I feel like, you know, I'm going to have to get rid of all of my things. Like, I'm literally going to have to get rid of everything. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to move all of my stuff, like, across the country. Like, and then also it was just, like, moving in with a man. Like, it was just so many factors that I was just, and even though we had already been living together at my place, it was my place, so I felt a little more comfortable and like assured, like, I mean, this is my place. Like, at the end of the day, if he leaves, like, I got my own place. So I was already really nervous about putting my trust in a stupid, how you figure. I already was nervous about doing that. But I was like, fuck it. Pretty much. Like, I literally was like, fuck it. Like, whatever. Like, there are only two options. Our two options are go home or go move in with my man. And y'all already know what my choice was, clearly, by the title of this video. So I decided, I was like, okay. I told him, I was like, this isn't going to be long term for me, I don't think. Like, hopefully not. I'm going to still be applying to jobs, and I'm going to try to move, like, at some point within me being out there. And honestly, like, after he got picked up by that team, I remember researching the team and looking at the players, like, looking at their girlfriends, if they had any. And, like, 90% of them boys was single. And if they weren't single, they looked really single. And I was just like, that's kind of when a little bit of the, I wouldn't say insecurity, but a little bit of the insecurity kind of started kicking in. And I was just like, oh my God, like, Is he gonna be easily influenced by these people? Like, you know, like, what is gonna happen? Like, is it really a smart decision for me to move out there with this man and, you know, potentially like fuck myself up, like fuck myself over? Like, you know, I'm getting rid of all of my stuff. I'm literally moving like so far with a man. Like, I don't know if this is a good decision when like I already am kind of iffy about this person. Like, I don't know. I ended up going, and I was in Arizona for about 5 months, if that. And after those 5 months, I ended up, you know, breaking things off with him and moving back to my parents' house. Anyway, don't we love that? God is really hilarious. I just want everyone to know that God is really hilarious, because you tell him your plans and he will laugh, especially if it's not the plans that he had for you and that he was telling you to do. You know how people love to be like, oh, God told me so-and-so is my husband, or God told me to move across the country for this man, or God told me this was the right decision. Did God tell you? Did God tell you that? Did God come down here and tell you that himself, that that was his plan for you? And I think that's why it's so important to stay in the Word, because there are a lot of things in the Word that if you follow the Word, things like this wouldn't happen. And I convinced myself that God told me to do it, and so I did it. And kind of like what's crazy is my theory, the thing that I was really nervous about happening from the beginning is what ended up happening while I was out there. And I just remember feeling like I lost myself, because I did move out there with him. I didn't have a job. I was like a stay-at-home girlfriend, if you will, I guess. Like, people like to make that a thing now. That is not a thing. I just want the girlies to stand up, and I just want them to know that it is so important to have your own things going on. And if you don't, go to a trusted source. Go to your family, okay? And if you don't have family, go to a trusted friend. Like, never put your trust in these men, okay? Like, unless that is your husband, unless you guys have made a vow under God and have signed some contracts and some papers and the lease is in your name and XYZ, it is not a good idea. Like, I don't care how what they're saying, how much they're telling you, like, no, like, I got you, like, whatever, like, please just have your own, like, just in case, because I do not wish this situation that happened to me on anybody. I literally just remember things had started getting rocky with us probably around like New Year's, and I remember him saying something about like needing some space and that I should go home on New Year's specifically. And I just remember thinking that that was so weird. Like, why do you want me to leave on New Year's, like specifically New Year's? So I remember staying until a couple days after New Year's. So I'm like, oh no, you got me fucked up. Like, you're not gonna try to, you know, whatever. I remember staying for like a couple days after New Year's and then coming home for a week. And when I tell you guys, that whole week that I was home, I bawled my eyes out. Like, there was something in my spirit telling me, like, it's done. Like, it's over. So, and also, I had a feeling that there were things going on behind my back when I wasn't there. You know? Because, like, I'm not in the vicinity anymore. And obviously, there's, like, space for things to happen now that I'm not there. So I just remember, like, crying my eyes out the whole week. Me and him had not spoken, like, basically the entire week. And then the first day I got back, we argued that day. Like, it was just so much. And my birthday was coming up again around this time. So my last birthday was when he got me the bag. This birthday coming up around this time was a different birthday. And so I already really wasn't feeling it because I had been so drained from this relationship, y'all. Like, I am not even, obviously, like, we're almost an hour into this video, and so I'm really trying to wrap it up and make it short and cute. But, like, there are so many things that I haven't spoken about in this video that, honestly, I can get into another time. And I will, honestly, because this is my niche. Like, I can talk all day about this. I have so much advice to give to women. Like, I just, yeah. But I remember I wasn't really feeling like my birthday anyways coming up, and we had been arguing a lot. And I just remember on my birthday, like, he did not really want to be bothered with me. Like, he didn't want to look at me. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to give me any compliments. Like, it was so bad. He was gone, like, the whole day. Come to find out, fast forward, I ended up breaking up with him. Something ended up happening where I kind of, like, it alluded to the fact that he was cheating on me. And I was like, oh, yeah, we're not doing this. Because, like, any other time before, it was a lot of speculation on my end, but I never actually had something, like, in my face that was, like, something's going on. So I literally, like, broke up with him, came back home to my parents, and I remember when I left, I had nothing. I had a couple suitcases. I threw everything I had into storage in Arizona. Like, I just found a random storage unit. Thank God, shout out to this girl that I had, like, been friends with at the time. And honestly, we're not even cool anymore, but I still, to this day, I want to reach out to her and send her some flowers or something, because, like, she got me through that time. And if it wasn't for her, who knows what would have happened to me. I remember, like, we broke up and I had nothing. Like, I had met this girl maybe, like, 2 times. She let me stay at her house for, like, 4 days, like 4 or 5 days, me and my dog, until I figured out how to get back home. I didn't want to ask my ex for anything because at this point, like, he had me so messed up that I was just like, no. So I just remember, like, I did not have nothing. I had, like, a suitcase of, like, leggings and hoodies that I brought back to my parents' house. I had packed all my stuff into a storage unit in Arizona. I had no money, like, literally $0. I had no money. My credit card was ran up. I had missed, like, maybe, like, 2 payments already, so my credit was, like, destroyed. No job still. Like, I literally had nothing, y'all. Like, when I left this man, I had nothing to my name. I had nothing but debt, credit card debt, and nothing to my name. And this girl literally, like, took me to the airport, like, took care of me, like, make sure I had food. Like, literally, she helped me so much. Sorry, y'all, I'm getting out of focus. She helped me so much, and I'm so, like, eternally grateful for that. And that was really nothing but God, because, like, the timing of everything was so perfect. Obviously not perfect, but, like, perfect. And I just remember coming back home and being like, dang, not only did I lose myself in that relationship to where, like, I didn't even know who I was anymore. I literally felt like I didn't even have a personality anymore. I didn't even know how to laugh. Like, I didn't know how to speak to people for longer than, like, 5 minutes at a time. Like, I literally just did not know who I was. And I remember, too, leaving him, and he didn't check in on me not one time. Like, are you safe? Are you okay? Like, it was nothing. And that feeling, y'all. On that note, let's do the lip liner. On that note, let's do the lips, because, yeah, that feeling right there, y'all, was, like, more than a slap in the face. Like, that was, like, more than a slap in the face. I really couldn't even explain that feeling on y'all. And the feeling that I had of feeling like a failure, feeling like people were gonna be like, yeah, see, I told you so. Like, the feeling of just putting your trust. Yeah, I can't take nothing serious, so, like, please ignore me. But, like, don't, because this is some real life stuff. Like, so yeah, I mean, fast forward now, I got a car, I got a good job, like, I finished school, I got a master's. Everything ended up working out, of course, because What did they say in the Bible? Everything works out for my good. It is okay to make mistakes. Like, it is okay to fail. God will always turn that around and make that work out for you in the best ways, in unimaginable ways. And obviously that has been what has happened to me. I have been in places that I never in a million years, a year ago, 2 years ago now almost, would have thought that I would have been in. Like, not even, just like a year ago today. A year ago today, I would have never in a trillion years thought that I would make it to this point within myself. And honestly, when I think about it, all of these things obviously could have been avoided if I followed my instincts. I really want to, there's so much I want to say, y'all. There's so much I want to say. I'm going to make another video. But love bombing is real. Love bombing is so real. Manipulation is so real. When people are insecure within themselves and they don't really know how to handle, you know, certain things with themselves, they will try to project it onto you. I just want the girls out there to stand on business more when it comes to things that are happening to you, that you know deep down within your spirit that, like, this is a good point that I want to make, that I saw, I want to say on like Twitter or like TikTok or something. Ask yourself, like, would my future husband talk to me like this? Would my future husband handle this situation this way? Like, the man that I dream of being with, obviously, like, don't dream of being with a man like whatever, XYZ. Decentering men is very, very important, and like something that I have learned how to do myself. It really protects you from these type of situations. But really ask yourself, because I know when you're in love, like, everything kind of goes out the window. Would my husband treat me like this? Would my husband handle this situation like this? Like, would my husband allow me to feel these ways? If the answer is no, I know how hard it can feel, like, to live without somebody that you have had a lot of experiences with and that you have shared your emotions with and been vulnerable with and, like, opened yourself up to be with. It's hard to leave those circumstances, but I promise you it does get better. It gets better. I'm telling you, it gets better. And loving yourself will be a risk that you take that will never fail you. Okay? At the end of the day, loving yourself, you'll never regret loving yourself and choosing yourself and putting yourself first. You will never regret doing that. Putting somebody else before yourself, that is another question. I don't know if you guys have seen Ballerina Farm on TikTok, but I need y'all to go watch that. Obviously, she chose that life for herself, but is she really happy? It is better to feel lonely alone than feel alone with somebody else. Like, it is way better to feel alone than alone with somebody else. I'm telling y'all, because a lot of these girls that portray these relationships that seem perfect, that they could do no wrong, like, there are things happening behind closed doors that no one would think in a million years would be going on. Like, I have so much to tell you guys, but obviously we're gonna have to save that for another video. This is it for my face. I don't want to stay on here too long. If you're still with me, I love you. I appreciate you. And honestly, this is the best I've beat my face in such a long time. Maybe we need to do a little more trauma dump sessions more often so I can get this face beat like this, because, girl. But yeah, that is it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys liked this story time, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. And if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, or anything that you guys would like to discuss, make sure to leave a comment and I will respond. And also, don't forget to follow me on all of my social media accounts: TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, the whole nine. Everything is going to be linked in the description, as well as all of the products that I used in today's video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.